Buenos días. Well, hablo español un poco, pero muy mal. So, lo siento, we must change to English. So I will give you some stories this morning to build on the stories that Sebastian began for us today. And you know, at the heart of this, Sebastian mentioned digital transformation. But you know, our technology industry has seen quite a number of periods of change. You know, you think about mainframe computers becoming replaced by mini computers during that era. We think about things like personal computers, the internet, mobile phones and mobile technologies, software architectures like client-server computing. We've seen many periods of change, both from a technology perspective, and also I would suggest economics connected to technology change together have us seeing different eras of computing. I think we might all agree, we see technology today taking place in every industry of the world and in every experience that we have as consumers. And we refer to this as the digital transformation era that we're in today. Red Hat is investing in a product portfolio that you'll hear much more about during the course of your day that is responding to these changes in this digital transformation era that we're in now. And as this talk suggests, taking advantage in your businesses of these technologies and this period of change is a requirement to not only thrive, but maybe some would say to survive. You can think about technology changes in the past where companies did not change fast enough, and maybe they're not even here today. So as we think about IT as an example, maybe if we were talking 10 years ago, we would have discussed how to reduce cost of IT. IT discussions in technology was often about finding efficiencies and ways to do more with less. Today, technology is a part of everything that businesses are pursuing, and I would suggest it's not a cost, but it's strategic to the very essence of what business is delivering to its customers today. And where the leaders for technology and IT come from are certainly the IT organization that many of us are a part of, but maybe the leadership also comes across the entire company. Perhaps it's scientists, perhaps it's financial experts, perhaps it's an automotive engineer like the BMW example Sebastian showed a minute ago. You know, I just bought a new car myself. I think there's 6 different computer systems at least inside the car. It even has its own SIM chip, and the car is talking via telemetry up to the BMW factories and so forth as I drive around. We all know self-driving cars will be coming in a few years. You can choose a story in any industry, and it's clear that technology is going through changes, and it's a part of everything. As we think about any vertical such as the medical industry, we're going to see dramatic changes in the way we experience medical treatment, facilitated by technology in interesting ways. So I'm sure you can think of examples in each of your businesses. Now, technology, and some might also say economics, can lead to disruption, changes in business strategies, changes in market conditions, even governments and the way that governments help serve us will go through dramatic changes as a result of technology. You know, here are some companies that experienced disruption. We all remember photography when it was a chemistry process, and companies like Kodak were leaders in their field. I think we might all agree photography has changed dramatically. Even our phones have become very powerful cameras, all digital. You think about the financial world today, and things like blockchain and Bitcoin and microservice-oriented approaches to the way in which the financial world is taking advantage of changes in technology. But that could disrupt some of the incumbents. The way retail, and we all experience purchasing goods, and how those goods are delivered and shipped to us, goes through dramatic change. Gartner, in its research, shares a few thoughts here, that the organizations that haven't modernized their application architecture and infrastructure to support a digital business will fail further or fall further behind the competition that's emerging based on new technologies. Now, we can think of some examples of companies like Airbnb or Uber or other companies that didn't exist just a few years ago. Now, one of the things about those companies is they had no legacy IT. They got to start fresh. Most of us probably don't get to do that. We have a whole set of technologies we have already invested in, and we already have to manage as we go forward. So it's a journey. It's not a simple decision, but part of our discussion together today should be about how we can help with the Red Hat portfolio along that journey. Here are some companies that are also involved here in Latin America in some disruptive offerings. The Creditas story is about offering a financial lending situation based on micropayments, and can create a very disruptive economic opportunity that traditional financial banks are not offering. Orgia Salud is a story of a 70-year-old publishing industry. Now, publishing is a great example of something that's going through dramatic changes in a digital world. And here, this particular story is about bringing medical information through a modern set of publishing approaches that are all digital. Or we can think about threats that we all experience through things like disease such as dengue or Zika, and how mosquitoes transmit these diseases, and utilizing technology. Here's a story where finding the locations where mosquitoes are being bred and being able to take action against that has been an important part of the health objectives of the world. Where are you in this digital journey? That's a good question to ask yourself through the course of the day. What this is suggesting is that in another survey, 91% of respondents are indicating that they see themselves as having a leadership role in this change. But at the same time, half of them aren't exactly sure that they're ready for this digital transformation. Or they're not sure they actually have clear plans of how they're going to transform their current IT to support the business in this digital transformation. So a question through the course of today is, what should you do? So as we think about this, 90% of CIOs are changing how they think about using technology. Leadership sees the obvious need to go through change and to not be disrupted. And another thing about change, I started with a story about mainframes and mini computers and so forth. Innovation is not just happening again, but it's an increasing pace. The rate at which new innovations are coming is going faster and faster. In fact, high-performing organizations today deploy new applications and new technologies hundreds of times faster than the days in the past. Even as consumers, we experience this on our phones, right? How often are the applications on our phones getting updated with new versions? It seems like almost every day. And so the idea of traditional IT processes that have very careful but very slow innovation processes is not going to protect us from disruption. Finding new ways to be more agile is an important part of the discussion. Now, the question of how to deal with this might still start with the same question I mentioned at the beginning. Very few of us probably have extra budget every year, right? And so we have to find ways to be more effective and efficient with our current investments to enable investing in new things. And this is an area of automation and ways in which we can design solutions, such as was mentioned in our management portfolio, you'll hear more about, to automate the processes you have today and shift some of your budget to find areas of greater productivity, new agile methodologies. We'll talk today a bit about application architectures with containers and DevOps, and our container architectures for application building. And finally, infrastructure deployments on clouds versus on-prem or off-premise cloud architectures. So as you begin thinking about the emerging technologies of big data, analytics, containers, hybrid cloud, these are all technologies and terms that start to characterize the digital transformation I'm describing. These are kind of the next layer down. So as we think about this, and Sebastian had a similar slide, while we're very proud of the technology we'll talk about during the course of today, it's more than just technology. Actually, starting with culture. Having a culture of change, a culture of transparency, a collaborative environment, we think is a key part of the modern organization. The open organization that Sebastian also mentioned in Jim Whitehurst's book recently talks a great deal about the power of having an organization that has a culture of change and collaboration. Finding processes also that help the teams in your organization respond to business requirements in a more agile way is what things like DevOps and container architectures and agile methodologies are all about. And of course, in the end, technology is also a key part of responding to this era of digital transformation. So culture is critical, and we'll talk a little bit about open source today. You know, why is Red Hat committed to open source? And one of the key points here is pretty simple. When the R&D investment of one company like Red Hat is joined by many other people and companies and their investments as well, innovation goes faster. If you look at all of the major investments and new innovations in the last 10 years, say, cloud computing, mobile computing, big data, analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, these are all technologies not coming from proprietary technology companies. They're coming from open source, community-based innovation. So innovation goes faster in open source. There are millions of projects. There are thousands of projects in the open source community that feed into the products that Red Hat will be talking about today and that we bring to the marketplace. Just to pick one example, the Linux operating system from Red Hat Enterprise Linux, or we say RHEL, is based on Fedora. Fedora is an upstream project that integrates together hundreds, if not thousands, of projects together. And in Fedora, we compose the operating system first there. I think lately there are around 7,000 or more packages that make up Fedora. When we actually compose RHEL itself from Fedora, one of the first things we do is we triage out technologies that are not ready for enterprise computing. RHEL is made up of about 3,000 or 4,000 packages now, quite a bit less than Fedora. And then we bring it through a very disciplined engineering process. And that same approach is being used through all of the products that we'll describe today. Every Red Hat product starts with projects in the upstream community. What that means is our engineers are actually working in the open source community first, and then that code is brought into Red Hat and becomes part of our products that we'll talk more about today. So open source is in very broad adoption today. At least 95%, maybe more, of enterprises around the world actually have embraced and adopted open source technologies. So it's not just the code, though. You know, one of the questions for Red Hat was, 20 years ago, how are you going to make money with software that's free and open source? Well, because it's not about the code itself. The innovation is an open source model, but in the end, running your business, running your enterprise requires enterprise quality products, not projects. And what Red Hat's been up to for the last 20 years is transforming open source innovation into enterprise products. And the ability to have the right levels of quality, support, life cycles, and so forth is a key to this approach that Red Hat has been pursuing. And what that looks like is we participate in the open source community. We bring that into a very traditional engineering set of processes, and then we produce releases of the products on a predictable basis. Let me just give you one example. RHEL itself. RHEL has a life cycle of 10 years. So that means RHEL version 5 is still supported today, but although 2017 is the end of its 10-year cycle. RHEL 6 released back in 2010 and will be supported until 2020. And RHEL 7 released in June of 2014, so will be supported till 2024. Now, you know what happened this year? We've been telling our customers, you know what, in 2017, the 10 years finishes with RHEL 5. Well, you might not be surprised we had some customers say, wait, we need a few more years, please. And so we have already extended RHEL 5 until 2020, so 13 years. And RHEL 6 will be extended also to 2023, 13 years. I don't know about RHEL 7 yet. We'll see when we get there. But the value we're creating is not only the code or what happens upstream. It's working with you to allow you to deploy and run your mission-critical businesses with confidence that Red Hat is paying attention to security and quality and regular releases to support what you need in the versions of our software. So if you're thinking about all of this, how's your organization doing? As you journey through the day with us today, and you think about the challenges that you have within your enterprise and your endeavor, see how the products we're building could be something that helps in your strategy. Look at the processes you use in your companies, and whether the methodologies of being agile, being open, continuous integration, continuous development, and collaborating within your enterprise something that can help you to be more agile in your development processes, your business processes, ways in which you can automate some of the technology you already have today, and then automate more as you move forward. And of course, we all know how important security is today, and this will be something that Red Hat continues to focus on in everything that we do. Moving to open technology is also about being able to use these technologies in your data centers on-premise and your data centers when you choose to adopt a cloud-based strategy. And we think both of these are going to be important for many years to come. We refer to that as the open hybrid cloud, but the idea that there are times to choose a public cloud strategy, times to choose an on-premise strategy, and be able to operate virtually across both. What you'll hear more about is sort of shown in this strategy slide. This is what we're responding to in the portfolio that we share with you. Across the infrastructure level of physical servers, or bare metal servers, virtual data centers, perhaps based on VMware, perhaps based on Red Hat's virtualization technology, private cloud environments. OpenStack is our strategy here. You'll hear more about that. OpenStack is composed and built on top of RHEL 7. Our public cloud partners, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, IBM SoftLayer, and others, which we have also over 250 regional cloud partners and providers around the world. And the version of Red Hat software that we're providing run on all of these platforms. Our strategy is to give you choice. The version of the RHEL operating system is the same, whether it's running on a physical server, virtual data center, a private cloud infrastructure, a public cloud. It's the same version of RHEL, the same APIs, the same 10-year life cycle. And so we preserve choice as you look at your choices around infrastructure deployment. Application architectures are also something we'll talk more about through the day as we look at containers and we look at OpenShift, our platform for building a DevOps type of process environment. And then management technologies to help you manage other vendor technologies together with Red Hat technologies in your data centers on-premise and off-premise. So the idea is any application, any environment you want to deploy it in, and no lock-in. You know, in the old days, I say old days, maybe 20 years ago, we were comparing Unix platforms and how Linux and Intel servers could create choice. Today, it's also about the public cloud space and how we can provide choice between on-premise environments and public cloud environments, and even between different cloud providers. So how do we all not get disrupted during this period of change? It starts with many of the sponsors that are outside, and I encourage you to go visit with them during the breaks. We have partners and an ecosystem around Red Hat. We did for the last 20 years, and as we move into this digital era, we have new partners. Who here would have imagined that Microsoft and Red Hat would be partners today? Just a few years ago, we probably thought that was impossible. But the reason Red Hat and Microsoft are partners today is because you, our customers, told both companies, please figure it out, because we're going to use Azure, as well as Amazon and other clouds, and we're going to use Red Hat software, so you need to be partners. So during a period of change, a digital transformation era, this is a time where also the partners that we have will continue to expand and grow also. We have many different types of customers around the world. You saw a slide from Sebastian earlier that we have 100% of key industries like the airline industry. Mission-critical computing and not being disrupted during this era is really a mission of every single industry. During a period of change, you see different companies emerge as leaders in their industries. And in the technology field, Red Hat intends to continue to play a key role in how this new transformation takes place in IT. The partners, the communities, the customers that are taking advantage of this period of innovation and change, as we look at cloud computing, mobile computing, different approaches to deliver value to the customers we serve, are going to be a part of collaborating together. So even as we think about this, we would invite you to collaborate with us. Now, one way our customers collaborate with Red Hat is your voice. We take and listen in forums like this, and then we bring that back to the open source community. So even if you're not participating in open source directly, through Red Hat, your voice can influence our investment in how we engineer in the community. So as a leader upstream in the open source environment, your voice is reflected through Red Hat. Now further, some of our customers have actually chosen to also contribute engineering in the community. And so they've partnered with us to actually help accelerate the innovation in the upstream community to meet their requirements. And so collaboration can happen many ways. And the slides no longer are advancing. So if the team in the back can help me get the slides to advance, that would be great. Well, while they do that, I'm going to wrap up. Here we are. Listen, we started today just sharing with you that, as a little context, we're in another period of change. I would imagine we all would agree. We see that in your businesses and industries, even as we as consumers are seeing how technology is really changing at an accelerated rate, the way that it is influencing businesses. I think during this period of change, okay, we will look together for how we can help you on your journey. I suggested the question a few times along the way, so what do you do? So I invite you to explore today the portfolio of products and technology sessions that we'll share, and we look forward to also hearing from you, your thoughts during the breaks and the discussions. So with that, that's our opening session, so thank you very much. Muchas gracias.
Un aplauso para Jim, ¿eh?